This is another children's book. It seems somewhat like a historical book, and I thought it was a true book, but it's like a true book. And the name of the book is The Sisters of Scituate Light, or Scituate Lighthouse. And here is the sisters looking over the edge of the cliff by the lighthouse. It's a beautiful lighthouse. Beautifully illustrated, beautifully colored. And I guess I will start the book. It is, once again, and this story supposedly took place around 1812, a little bit south of Boston, on a rocky shoreline next to a lighthouse that was called Scituate Light. Or Lighthouse. So here we go. Yankee Doodle went to town, a-riding on a pony, stuck a feather in his hat. Oh, wait, I don't like this one. Leave me alone, you're interrupting my song. Stuck a feather in his hat and called it macaroni. Yankee Doodle, keep it up. Yankee Doodle Dandy. Oh, the other song's better. Won't you sing that? Leave me. Shh, be quiet. Yankee Doodle, keep it up. Yankee Doodle Dandy. Mind the music and the step, and with the girls be handy. So that's what this book is about. Something about this song called Yankee Doodle, a popular old song during the early times of George Washington. Oh, I want to hear the other song. Oh, leave me alone and I'll sing it. There's a character here that wants me to sing another version of Yankee Doodle Dandy. He's not going to leave me alone until I sing another version of Yankee Doodle Dandy. So here it is. Oh, goody. I like this song better. Yeah, just be quiet and I'll go ahead and sing it for you. Here we go. Here's the version you wanted to hear. Oh, goody. I want to hear that, yeah. I'm a Yankee Doodle Dandy. Yankee Doodle do or die. A real-life nephew of my Uncle Sam, born on the 4th of July. I've got a Yankee Doodle sweetheart. She's my Yankee Doodle joy. Yankee Doodle came to London just to ride the ponies. I am the Yankee Doodle boy. Oh, goody, yum. Thank you. That's what I wanted to hear. That's really great. I like that. Well, I'm glad I made you happy there, Doofus, or whatever your name is. And just be quiet and let me read the book, would you? Oh, sure, Mr. Clay. I just wanted to hear. Well, I wanted to hear that Yankee Doodle the way that you sang it is a way that I wanted to hear it. And that's fine. And you just be quiet. You hush up. And let me read this story. The Sisters of Scituate Lighthouse. Okay, now that I got my friend quiet, I will try to start the story. The Sisters of Scituate Lighthouse. I like this. It's a beautiful picture of the lighthouse. And there's where they lived, in a house right next to the lighthouse. I think it had 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, something like that. Beautiful, beautiful colors of this lighthouse. I just love what a great job they did on this. Here's a small little kind of a introduction and stuff. It says, for Laura and Julia, 2 sisters who also make a good team. Ah, this is even better. This is my favorite one. I don't know, they painted it with something, watercolors or oils or pastels, but they did a great job. I loved the colors they used. And what a beautiful lighthouse. How clear and how beautiful. I'm sorry that I didn't start the story. Scituate Light was a welcome sight to sailors at sea. 25 feet high, with 8 equal sides, it towered over the rocky shoreline south of Boston. The light was a warning as well. Don't get too close, it reminded the ships sailing by. Dangerous winds and currents are lying in wait to dash your boats against the rocks. So don't get too close. Rebecca and Abby Bates knew all about these things. Their father Simeon was the lighthouse keeper, and they lived right next in a house with 3 rooms and 3 fireplaces to match. Wow, that's pretty good. Most houses don't have 3 fireplaces. Wow. I guess I was wrong about the 1 bathroom. They don't really tell. When they were younger, their father had told them stories of ships running aground or sinking in terrible, terrible storms. They had marked every word, especially when the wind was howling. And the waves tumbled over the rocks. Why, they were huddled next to the fireplace, listening to Father's stories of people who ran aground in ships in terrible storms. And we see the mother and the baby and another child listening to the father tell his tales of things that happened perhaps before some of his children were born. And a fireplace looks cozy on such a night as this. Ah, but now it's daytime. Now it's light. It's beautiful. And it looks like the children are cleaning the lighthouse. Running a lighthouse wasn't easy, and all the Bates family helped out. They trimmed the wicks and the lamps, wiped soot off the lanterns, and polished the brass fittings. The chores went on, and when they were done, it was time to start all over again. After dark, the lighthouse lamps had to be refilled with whale oil several times a night. No matter how hot or how cold, or nasty the weather got, and that would probably include rainstorms, the light must never go out. Remember the song, "This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine." The light must not go out. But not only American ships used Scituate Light. It was September of 1814 and the United States was at war with England. The British Navy was the greatest in the world and its ships harried the American coast at will. Only weeks earlier the British fleet had attacked Washington City and its soldiers had set fire to the White House. Imagine that. Setting fire to the White House. Seems like all might be or could be lost. Later that month, Simeon Bates took most of his family away on a short trip, but he didn't leave the lighthouse deserted. He asked Rebecca and Abby to stay behind and to keep watch. His daughters kept busy cooking and cleaning. Oh, that smells so good, doesn't it? I wish I could smell it. Their most important job, though, was looking out for ships in distress. But the closest vessel, a British warship, was actually looking for trouble. Oh, look at her. She sees the British warship. It's not a happy sight. I see fire. 2 months before, it had raided Scituate Harbor, taking supplies and burning a few boats. There's the fire. But what could they do? The townspeople had not dared to protest. Anyone who interfered would have been killed at once. Oh, those rotten British. At that time. Aha! Here we have. Now the warship had returned. A little later, the barges had been lowered and launched toward shore. The beach was empty, no alarm had been raised, and the British Marines smiled grimly. Clearly they had caught the Americans napping again. Napping again, they thought. But actually, it doesn't seem like this town was prepared to fight in a war. And here comes these mischievous men from Britain to raid the town and take whatever they want and plunder the place. Or so they thought. And with the lighthouse meant to guide in good people, this night it's guiding in people who are up to no good. But Abby was awake. She had been looking out over the water. Now she ran to find her sister. "What shall we do?" she cried out to Rebecca. She knew the British were up to no good. "Here are their barges coming again, and they'll burn up our vessels just as they did afore." There was no time to warn anyone. The girls could flee to safety, but that would leave the town exposed. "We cannot stand idly by," said Rebecca. "We must do something." "But what chance did they have against trained soldiers? That was the trouble. What could these girls do? Suddenly, Rebecca had an idea. "You get the old drum up in the garret," she told her sister, "and I'll play the fife." Abby looked confused. "The drum?" She didn't know how to play the drum. "All you've got to do is call the roll," Rebecca explained. Abby didn't see how that would help, but there was no time for questions. It was time for action. The British boats had almost reached shore when their officer motioned for silence. The sailors shipped their oars. Was that music they heard? The sound of a fifer? The sound of a five, and drum drifted toward them. The drums drifted toward them from beyond a grove of trees. The tune was familiar. It was that silly Colonel song. Colonial song, Yankee Doodle. Confound those Americans. Someone must have seen them. The five and drum meant soldiers were coming. It could be a regiment or even a battalion. But there was no American soldiers. Marching behind the trees, only Rebecca and Abby, playing as loud as possible. As loud as they possibly could. Yes, sir. Abby wanted to know what was happening, but Rebecca advised caution. "We must keep out of sight," she whispered. "If they see you, they'll laugh us to scorn." Rebecca did not add that if the British captured them, who knew what their fate would be. Finally, they chanced to look. There was a signal flag flying from the warship Mask. "Retreat!" was the order. The British captain had good ears, and he had heard the music too. Abby was excited and began to speak. "Don't make a noise," said Rebecca. "Yeah, you make me laugh, and I can't pucker my mouth." Now the men in the boat saw their flag as well, and their oars slapped the water. It was one thing to bully a little town. it was another to fight a pitched battle. They turned about so quickly that one Marine fell overboard and had to be hauled back in. Rebecca and Abby could hardly believe it. The fight was over and nearly a shot had been fired. Time for rejoicing. They had quite a story to tell when their family returned. The war went on for a few more months, but the British never troubled the town again. "Oh, Daddy, Daddy, we got some great things to tell you. Some great things." "Oh, dear, I want to hear those great things. Daddy, miss my little girls." The sisters of Scituate Lighthouse had seen to that the British would never trouble the town again. Oh, what a happy, beautiful, sunny day for a beautiful, wonderful ending of this wonderful story. The War of 1812 started for several reasons. There was British ships abducting American sailors at sea and forcing them into their own service. Meanwhile, on the northern and western frontiers, British agents were fostering unrest with Canada. The war finally ended in 1815. Neither side could claim a real victory, but both were tired of the conflict. 21-year-old Rebecca and 17-year-old Abigail were later hailed as heroes in Scituate for their quick thinking. The dialogue included here is quoted from the girls' own words, taken from magazine interviews they gave many years later. As Rebecca explained, "I was fond of military music and could play 4 tunes on the 5. Yankee Doodle was my masterpiece. Luckily for Scituate, it was the right tune at the right time." Now, can you believe that? It sounds like a true book. But according to the beginning of the book, it did say fiction, but let's say it was true to our hearts. And it was a wonderful story. The sisters of the Scituate Lighthouse. Such a beautiful story. I love lighthouse stories. I've read 1 or 2 other ones recently. There was one story written for the Boxcar Kids, and that was a good story, where they took a vacation at a lighthouse, and there was something strange going on in the house next to the lighthouse. But the children had to live in the lighthouse. They just slept on the flat places that was on the stairs as it goes up, I suppose, and they ate outside. But that's another story for another time, and this ends Sisters of Scituate Light. Hope you liked the story. And the flute was what I made with a little bitty instrument called the Ocarina. Very small flute you wear around your neck. This is called Papagena. There's 2 versions of it. Mine's Papagena. Makes a great sound for a little flute. This ends, sisters, a Scituate Light.